going to try this again. Had an emergency call that I had to deal with. I apologize for that. Normally, uh, we just kept moving, but that was something that needed to be dealt with. Um, we're talking about transformation. We're talking about transformational power. Though it's generated from within, it has to be something that's developed. And I want to talk about that. Before I talk about transformational power, and I talk about the value of transformation and the importance of understanding the value of how you move and the value of your decisions. See, the decisions that you are making today are going to shape your destiny. It's that decision. Every decision moment is a huge point in your life, but we're going to talk about that. But before I do, I want to point you to something extremely important. And I want you to catch on to this because it's going to gain meaning and understanding as I talk. In the description box or the post box or wherever your caption for this video is, there are going to be two real simple offers that carry a great deal of gravity. The first one is going to be an offer where you pay for the bronze package, my bronze coaching, counseling, therapy package, consulting package, whatever it is you want to call it. It's going to be, the bronze package is a 12-week package that's priced at $29.97. But I'm giving a free upgrade to the people who respond to this video for my platinum package, which is a 12-month, 52-week, 52-session encounter. It's where a lot of my high performers are hanging out. A lot of people who are in the Epic Ram community are all former clients of mine, and they're doing their thing. But that's a 11.5. We've been playing around with it. It used to be 10.5. We moved up to 12 something. We brought it back down to 11.5. So it's 11.5. But you're going to get it for the price of the bronze. This is only for the people who find the value in it. Now, there's transformational power in what's happening, and I'm going to tell you why in a minute. The second one is for people who are really, truly looking to take advantage of opportunities to take control of their finances. Your finances are your future. Your finances are your life. Your finances are your responsibility, and you should be taking control of them. The understanding of how the world works is so important. And that's what we're talking about. Transformation comes from knowledge, but not just knowledge. It comes from the awareness of something and then the proper application of it. Knowledge by itself isn't power. It isn't transformational. Knowledge that is properly, effectively applied becomes power because it moves you towards something. It gives you the resource you need to change. What we are talking about when we talk about transformation, we're talking about gaining the level of understanding and knowledge and expertise in any given area so that you advance yourself. Research tells us that to become an expert in something, you need to invest and engage in it for about 10,000 hours. If you want to be an expert at what instrument you play, you're going to practice and play for about 10,000 hours before you become that elite person in that. Whatever it is you're going to be doing, you're going to have to spend some time learning it. The process is just what it is. It's a preparatory process. You don't get from the ground to the pinnacle just by saying, I want to do it. You have to make the decision. You have to make the commitment. And so people ask, do you seriously charge that amount? And the thing is, I'm worth way more than what I'm charging right now. I'm overcoming my own obstacles because coming from where I come from and being around people, growing up and dealing with people I come from, the idea that there are so many people I know that are aware of me that cannot afford my prices. I wrestle daily with my prices. And the problem is, I'm worth it. Here's the thing is, when you understand value, you understand something. Let me tell you something. I've gotten some of my greatest breakthroughs because I was willing to invest in myself, because I was willing to get outside of that comfort zone of expecting everything for nothing and go for it. And yes, there are always risks to investing in yourself, whether you're investing in the market, whether you're investing in programs, whether you invest. There are people who have gambled 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years investing in their education and haven't reaped the rewards of that education. Everything has risk attached to it. The idea that there's this paved path that everything is going to lay down for you and you're going to get everything you ever wanted out of life without taking any risk is absolutely absurd. Even when you play it safe, you're going to end up bumping your head. Even when you play it safe, you're going to find yourself in situations that are not pleasurable, that have a certain amount of pain associated with it. That's life. The thing is, what are you going to get out of the moments? How much are you going to benefit from your growth? See, life is changing and you are changing with it. The thing is, are you controlling the change? Are you changing intentionally? Are you engaging something with enough specificity that you're changing? Let me tell you something. One of the things that I learned, one of the things I say often is that complexity is the enemy of change. Complexity is the enemy of execution. Complexity is the enemy of progression. When we overcomplicate something, it makes it difficult for us to move on it. It becomes frustrating, it becomes overwhelming, and we set it down. When you start talking about where all these life coaches coming from and why, because when you develop a level of expertise that allows you to walk into a person's life and say, this is where you're at, this is where you want to go, this is how you get there, and then walk them through it step by step to where it's simplified for them and they have someone to walk along with. There's something about doing something with someone that removes a great deal of the apprehension and trepidation that goes along with it. So that alone is value, but that's not it. The thing is, anything that you invest in something and it has a return of investment that is greater than the investment, and you have to understand value to do it, it's worth the investment. So if you invest in someone that's going to say, okay, I'm going to get you, number one, from point A to point Z 100 times faster than you can get there on your own. I'm going to stop you from bumping your head. I'm going to stop you from missing this. I'm going to stop you from losing countless amounts of dollars in stuff that doesn't work. I'm going to show you how to do it, whether it's start a business, whether it's get your 401k straight, whether it's work on your relationship, whether it's to sit up and actually advance in your own career. There are processes. Let me tell you something. Success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. And for the people who have studied those clues, for the people who have learned them and applied them, none of us are perfect. And the people that I have chosen to mentor me over the years aren't people who present themselves as perfect. They are people that had catastrophic stuff happen in their lives right when they thought they had it figured out. They took a chance and had catastrophic stuff happen, and they rebounded from it, and they built on it. They learned from it, and they taught other people how to avoid it, and made unbelievable amounts. Those are the people that I actually turned to when I needed to restart and rebuild my business after having a real good run and then hitting a rough patch. And these people brought value because they understood, number one, what I was going through, but they also understood the process of getting to somewhere. And that's what someone like me does. Now, I have spent the last 30 years mastering psycho-cybernetics, neuroassociative conditioning, embodied cognition, transformational language, all of these different things as a point of teaching people how to change how they perceive things here. Because this is the most powerful force. If you can have the best plan in the world, if you don't have the right mindset, the right psychology, the right way of viewing things, you're going to constantly run into walls. You're going to constantly be pushed back. Now, let me explain something, because people need to understand that. And I don't think enough people with platforms that are talking about teaching people, helping people, coaching people, treating people, whatever it is, I don't think that they are transparent enough about processes. Let me tell you something. There's nobody that moves through this thing and doesn't experience anything, doesn't experience any setbacks. There's no switch you turn on and everything happens for you. There's no way that you sit up and all of a sudden you find this panacea to every problem in the world and you just move through life and nothing ever goes wrong. The thing is, number one is you become more effective at dealing with challenge. You become more calm and confident in who you are and your ability to overcome. You sit up and develop. So things come, but you're prepared for them. You know challenges are coming. The storm is always coming. My grandfather taught me a lesson. And if you followed me for any time, you've probably heard this story. He said, son, look, you're either in one of three places in life. You're either going into a storm You're in a storm or you're coming out of one. That's life. That's transition. That's growth. The storm is a part of the process. Stop trying to avoid the storm. Stop trying to avoid the process. Stop trying to avoid the storm. So your only responsibility when you're in the storm is to make sure you come out a better man than the man that went in. The storm will grow you. It will shape you. It will strengthen you. It will elevate you. But you have to be willing to go into it and take it on. It's not going to always feel good. Rarely does. It's going to challenge you in ways you haven't been challenged. That's how you expand. So when people ask me, well, what do I get for this? Number one is, I'm going to cut out a lot of the stuff that you're doing that doesn't make sense. Number one is I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to point out the things I see. So many people are carrying limiting beliefs that they brought from their childhood. They brought from past experiences about life that they can't move on anything. Everybody thinks within the confines of their experiences until they decide to step outside of that box and explore what they can create with their mind. The mind is so powerful. The imagination can manifest things and conceive things that is not current. And what I help people do is I help people get out of their own way, first and foremost. How? Number one is stop focusing on the circumstances. Whatever you focus on, you feel. Whatever you're giving your attention to is you're giving energy to. When you give attention to something, you give energy to it. If you're focusing on the negative, you're going to feel the negative. The more you feel the negative, the more negative you become. The more negative you become, the lower your vibration and energy, and the less access you have to higher vibration realities. And so what happens is you literally will think yourself out of a position to advance yourself. One of my goals initially is to find those thinking habits and give you new habits. And that's a process. It's a process of understanding that if I don't change my self-image, I can have all the plans in the world. If I don't change my self-image, I can have all the ideas. I can have the best blueprint in the world. But if I don't change how I see myself in the world, if I consistently see myself as poor, if I consistently see myself as broke, if I consistently see myself as nothing but someone that needs somebody else to employ them. Nothing wrong with being an employee, but you should have a plan on how you're going to advance it in your life and how you're going to use it to your benefit. You should never be at the mercy of someone to the point of wherever they decide is going to determine your life. Even if I'm going to work for someone else as an employee, there's got to be a plan of how I'm going to use that to leverage what I want in life and to control it. So I'm going to use it to create other avenues and streams of revenue. It's that simple. I can't trust just one stream of revenue. So then no matter what, I'm going to be in control, but I have to believe it's possible. A bunch of you are sitting up and there's something inside of you. If you're procrastinating, it's one or two things. There's fear. And then there is the inability to see beyond the moment. And so you get stuck. You want to see it before you move. And the crazy thing is most people that are watching this video are people who are in some way associated with some form of a faith organization, whether it's the church, whether it's Islam, whether it's Buddhism or Hinduism, whether it's African spirituality. There's this understanding that there's a higher source, there's a higher power, but we never truly understand the dynamic of faith. Faith says that I can't see it, but I know it's there. The thing about Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, it says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. Faith. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things, what? Not seen. It's the very substance of everything that I hope for. In other words, faith is the thing that I don't need visual confirmation to know that it's possible. If I can conceive it in my mind, that's God's evidence that it's possible. So then what? Now I have to step out. The problem is people don't understand that when you get ready to step out on faith, it's not going to be lined up for you. If I can add it up, if I can go 2 + 2 + 2, that's 6. And so if I go 2 + 2, I'll end up at 6. I don't need faith to end up at 6. I need to take 2 plus 2 plus 2. But if I'm sitting up and saying I'm going from 0 to 100, and then there are these different variations and movements and times and places that I've got to arrive, and I don't know all the answers, but I'm trusting that if I take the first step, that things are going to open up for me. And as I move toward them, things are going to change for me. That's faith. Faith says I'm going to step out in it before I see it. And then I'm going to trust that at some point it manifests. I'm going to tell you something. Not until you move on something, are you going to get to a point where faith starts to unveil. It's the moving on something that you begin to see. It's providence. Providence doesn't show itself to doubters. Providence doesn't show itself to people that are hiding in their corner of comfort. Providence doesn't show itself to people that are saying, I need to have it figured out and laid out for me. That's the reason and rationale group. That's the things that you go. And whatever you can reason, you can do. The problem is there are a bunch of things that you want out of life that you can't reason because you haven't been there. You can't reason because you never experienced. You can't reason it because you can't consult your past on it because it's never happened yet. So what are you going to do? You're going to have to step out on faith to accomplish the things you haven't done. As long as you're consulting your past, you're going to have a predictable future because your past is going to give you what it has. And if you're acting on what your past is revealing to you, you can only do what you've done. You're going to have to escape the shackles of your past to step out into a place that you've never been and believe that when you move into it, there are some things that are going to happen. That you got to believe that if I conceive it in my mind, then it's God's evidence. The moment that I thought it, I planted a seed. Your thoughts are the seeds of your destiny. What are you talking? The thoughts that you are having are the seeds of your destiny. The decisions you're making, the thoughts you're making now are becoming the things of tomorrow. And if you want to change what you're having, you want to change what you get tomorrow. You're tired of getting what you've been getting. You're going to have to change your thinking. So when people, that's what I am an expert at. I'm going to help you change your thinking, but I'm also a life strategist. I'm going to sit up and say, this is how you get there. You don't just wish upon it. You make a decision. You're going to move. You move upon it. You have a plan, but you don't allow anything between you and that goal to stop you. But then you're going to strategically move toward it. It's the planning of it that gives you a direction. A lot of people are striving, but don't know what they're striving for. That's the reason why it says it says, be still and know that I am God. It says, be still. Why? You're striving and you don't know what you're striving for. You're beating at the air is what Paul called it. You're beating at the air. You're just fighting and you don't know why nothing's coming together because you're fighting. And I'm telling you, you can get into spaces. I've been there where you get in and it's just so messed up and you look up and you're fighting and you don't even know what you're fighting. You're just going out. I can't stop. You're afraid if you stop fighting, if you stop swinging, you're going to go down. So you just swinging, hoping that you hit something. Sometimes you got to step back and breathe. Sometimes you got to step back and breathe. You got to stop striving and trust that God is God and that God is going to honor the promise of your potential because you were born with potential. You were born with a gift. You were born with something. It says in the book of Proverbs that your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. You were born with a gift. There's nobody that has it. The problem is we were birthed into a world that isn't exploring our gifts. We were birthed into a world that is training us to move with inside of a system that may not serve our interests. So what do? We have to learn how to move around the things that don't mean us any good. We have to learn how to navigate so that we create paths that serve our interests. We are responsible for the outcomes of our lives. And like I tell you, it doesn't matter where you're at right now. It matters where you decide you're going to be. And if you're going to be somewhere other than where you're at, you can't keep focusing on now. I've told you this before. There have been some times I've gone through and people are looking at me. And there's nothing on my face that looks like what I'm going through. There's a smile. There's a sense of confidence. There's a sense of well-being and peace. And they're going, you're in denial. You really need to acknowledge that where you're at right now. Sometimes it was financial. Sometimes it was relational. Sometimes it was emotional. And you just need to admit it. I'm saying, no, I'm not denying that what's going on right now is here. What I am doing is refusing to give it so much attention that it takes on so much power that it overwhelms me. It's there. It needs to be dealt with. How I'm going to deal with it is I'm going to put myself, first of all, in a place of confidence so that I'm quiet, so that my heartbeat is reduced, so that my stress levels are low, so that I can understand exactly what I need to do. The reason you can't think is because you're in stress mode. When you're in stress mode, you shut down the prefrontal cortex, the part that's responsible for impulse control, responsible for reason and rationale, decision making, and all that other stuff. You shut that down. The moment you get to a certain level of stress, you go into fight or flight mode. Even though there ain't nothing to run from and nothing to fight, you're in stress mode. The body's most primitive responses in survival is still stress, and it's fight or flight. All that blood that would normally go, that 30% of your blood flow that normally is feeding this when you're awake, is now going to your extremities, your hands, your legs, your feet, and your arms, so that you can either fight or run. You don't have the ability to think. That shuts down. That's why you be sitting up and you're looking and go, why did that person do that? What the hell were they thinking? It's because they're in fight or flight mode. They can't think. They're instinctively trying to survive something that they don't even know how to survive, because it's something outside of the scope of natural instinctive behavior. When a dog is running at you, you're either going to run, or you're going to stand still and stand up against it and hope you back it off, or you're going to go jump on top of something that the dog can't get on. That's easy. That's instinctive. You feel when you're sitting up and you're figuring out, okay, man, I just lost my job. What's the next move? And you're stressing out because baby's at home and the kids at home, and you're trying to figure out how you're not going to lose everything you've worked hard for. And now that stress level is going up. There's no easy jump on a car for that. You're going to have to calm down, and you're going to have to search places and look in places in your mind and your imagination, because the way that you're going to come out of it may not have even been created yet. We've got to stop living within the limitations of our past and start searching the infinite expanses of our imagination. That's why God gave it to us. It's a part of our ability to create. It starts with our imagination. Somebody imagined flying in a plane. Somebody imagined the landline telephone. Somebody imagined the cell phone. Somebody imagined what you're experiencing right now with live streaming. That came from an imagination. It hadn't existed yet. It came from an imagination, and it exploded. And somebody now is eating good because they explored an imagination and then acted on it. That is what's out there. As long as you can think freely outside of the box and constraints of what's impossible, there's no limit to what you can do, but you got to break free of it. And it's constantly coming at you. You're constantly being fed information that suggests your limitations. And you got to understand how you move outside of it. You got to understand how hard it is to overcome negative thoughts, negative ideas, negative words. You've got to have an understanding of that. That's what happens when you sit down with someone who has dedicated their lives to sitting up and helping you change yours. They understand the dynamic of change. Transformation is a process. Transformation requires a certain level of understanding that can be applied. Again, knowledge is important, but knowledge without proper application does not equate to power. So it's about obtaining knowledge. It's about successfully applying that knowledge. It's about progression. The problem is we want to ease into everything. The problem is we want to take the safest route. And while that sounds good, and while that sounds reasonable and smart, it locks us into a box of mediocrity. So when I'm offering what I'm offering, especially at these unbelievable rates, what I'm saying is, come test the waters of change. Come test the transformational waters of guided, precision-filled transformation. It's unbelievable. There's a reason why life coaching is one of the most rapid growing industries in the world. It works. Not everybody out there knows what they're doing, but it works. Not everybody out there has the experience. Like I said, I've been doing what I've been doing and gaining the knowledge I've gained. Like I said, neuro-linguistics programming and neurosocial conditioning and embodied conditioning, psycho-cybernetics, transformational language, and of course, psychology, in which I hold a doctorate. Look, anything can be done if you believe it can. It starts with faith. Faith is not simply believing something, it's believing something at a level that causes you to act on it. That's faith. In the book of James, James says that you say you have faith, but faith without works is dead. And then he goes a little further down and then he says, you say you have faith without works. I'll show you my faith by my works. You'll be able to look at my life and tell what I believe. You'll be able to look at my life and tell how confident I am in what I do. You'll be able to look at my life and say, man, that brother's going out there and he's challenging himself. That brother's going out there and doing that. Here's the thing. Success leaves clues. The 5% of the people who are getting on in this world are doing things that anybody else can do. The difference is they've decided to do it and not complain, not whine, not look for the cheap route out, not sit up and think that they can sit up and wait on somebody to drop something advantageously in their lap. They understand that the more that they apply themselves, the more they invest themselves, the more they give of themselves to this passion that they have, this desire that they have, the closer they move to it. See, when you identify the thing, you come to me, another thing I'm going to do is I'm saying, okay, here's where you're at. Where do you want to go? Now we have a destination. You know how many people are moving around right now with no sense of a destination? They don't know what their destiny is. So they don't have a sense of destination. They don't have an idea. They're traveling in the wrong way and they wonder why they're unfulfilled. They're traveling in the wrong way. They wonder why they can't get a meaningful relationship. They're traveling in the wrong way and they don't understand it. It's not for them to understand at that point. It's for them to find a destiny. Find your purpose, find a reason for being here. And it doesn't mean that you got to be spot on. It means that you need to know where you're going in a place that's drawing you enough that you're willing to move toward it. A bunch of people are going to quit because they're not willing to go the distance. A bunch of people are doing this because they're not willing to go the distance. What I want for you to do is ask yourself, what is it that you want? And then ask yourself, do I know how to get there? Like Les Brown says, when you're making up in your mind that you're going to do something that you've never done before, how you're going to do it at that time is none of your business. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they're getting ready to do something that they haven't done before is they consult themselves on how they're going to do it. And I think that's kind of funny, but I think that we all have done that. You sit and say, man, I would love to do that. And then you start saying, man, I wonder how to do it. And then you may ask a buddy or something. And you say, man, and they, oh, I don't know. And then you say, man, never mind. And you give it up. The thing is, if you've never done it before, the chance of you knowing how to do it is probably real low. So what does that mean? That means you have to commit to it and then you move into it and you start to discover the right people will appear at the right time. There's this old saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Not only that, but when you're ready, opportunities will appear, but you've got to position yourself and put yourself in the right place. Look, again, as I stated at the beginning of the video, I have two opportunities to work with me specifically and be a part of an organization. The first one is working with me specifically in a one-on-one basis for a year, but you're going to do that by purchasing the bronze package, which is a 12-week package, and I'm going to gift the upgrade from a $29.97 package to a $11.5 package. On the balance is on me. That's 52 sessions of deep engagement. And I'm telling you, there's so much that you're going to learn about yourself that it's going to be crazy. The first couple of weeks are like, and I love it. The clients are like, man, I didn't even think about it that way. And it's so much that we are just conditioned to do that works against us. And we're going to get that stuff off of us quick. We're going to get all that stuff that doesn't work for us off of us. We're going to learn that we've been practicing the wrong speech, self-talk. We've got to work on building new circles. We've got to understand the progressive movement and step-by-step movement towards goals. We got to understand how to set goals so that they pull us. Some of us got these goals, and I'm looking at, man, they just wake up every day. You're going to hit that. That's not a goal. That's just default. Set a goal that makes you feel the urgency and the necessity of getting up out of your bed. That there's going to be a time. Set a goal that at a certain point in the morning, you realize, I'm going to get my ass up right now. I'm not going to get this done. And you get up. That's a goal. You know my favorite quote. I'm going to say this and then I'm done. If the vision that you have for your life isn't so huge that it intimidates you, it's a good chance it's insulting God. Stephen Furtick. What is Stephen saying when he says that? That God didn't design you to play small. God didn't design you to live average and mediocre lives. God designed you to be a reflection of God. That's what that means. It means that people should look at you and know that you're connected to God. They should look at you and know that there's a unique relationship and expression of power that comes from divine origins, and that you are moving in it, and that they look at it and say, man, show me what you're doing. Help me understand it. Not just in what you accomplish, but in how you manage life. People are looking at you and going, man, you should have folded. Why haven't you folded? I'm not built like that. My number one go-to when things get real crazy and I can't understand it. I'm human. I don't have all the answers. I just sit up and look at myself in the mirror and say, you're built for this. Rick, you got it. You're built for it. That calms me down enough to start realizing it's not as bad as I thought it was. It don't feel good. It's uncomfortable. It's part of the process. I'm going to get through it. So my challenge is to you to get through it by being committed to something greater. And no, it's not going to be easy. No, you're not just going to sit up and say, this is what I want to do, and it's going to roll. Not if you're really shooting for something, aiming for something great. That's my challenge to you. For those who want to take advantage of it. Also, the Legacy Wealth Program. I think that's a great program for learning. Again, I'm not acting as a financial advisor. I'm not acting as a financial manager. I'm not selling no financial products. I'm not asking nobody to invest in nobody's program. What I'm going to teach you are principles that every person that wants to build wealth should understand. Every person that wants to get control of their finances should understand. Every person that should understand that even at a certain level, no matter how troubling and turbulent things are, there's a certain level that you should be able to trust that you can handle. And all of that stuff comes from being able to understand how things work. One of the biggest disruptors to progress is not understanding how things work. As I said at the beginning, complexity is the enemy of execution. What I do is I help simplify things. If you want that, then reach out. The people that I have had the chance to work with is just amazing. So again, I would love to add you to that list. On another note, I'm hoping and wishing the best for you, but please build momentum going into 2023. Don't be the people that get there on January the 1st and start talking about New Year's resolutions. Look at how many people follow. All you got to do is go stand at a gym and wait until about February, March. And you see, because no momentum. You don't deal with transition that way. You use transitional moments to do transformational things, but you build the momentum going into it. You don't want to go into the transition standing still, because you tend to stand still. You want to go into the transition moving towards something specific. I teach all that. But anyway, that's from me to you. On that note, I live my life on full so that when I leave this place, I die on E. That's my challenge to you. On that note, I'm out of here. You guys have an unbelievable remainder of your day.